It was still 1 out before lunch.
Yep. Hello, everybody. We are live at lunch, coming to you after a catastrophic session for Australia, losing 9 for 52, being bowled out for 113. I boldly declared on our podcast last night that Australia will win this match. Well, they have completely stuffed that.
Look, we probably need to record two shows. One on the 98% chance that this is the biggest debacle ever, and one on the 2% chance that it's the most amazing come-from-behind win ever. But let's go with the former and say I don't think I can remember a more disappointing session. And maybe I'm going on a limb here. I think that's the most disappointing session I've ever seen as an Australian cricket fan following the Australian men's team, having first watched them play in 84, 85.
That was atrocious. And so Australia started the day just one down with Travis Head looking really good. I thought he was going to make a big score. And when he was out in the first over, caught behind, I was getting nervous. But then it was just wicket after wicket. We lost 4 wickets with the score on 95. As I said, we lost 9 for 52. Some crazy shots. I don't know, like we want them to be aggressive, but this seemed thoughtless. Matt Hayden called it a disaster. It was just some of the most crazy batting I've ever seen. Pat Cummins may have played the second worst shot in Test cricket I've ever seen. It was just completely, it just all went to shit.
What's the worst shot you've ever seen, by the way?
Well, there was that guy, was it a West Indies batter who needed like 1 run to win a Test match? And he tried to hit it for 8. Yes, Gabriel.
Why would he do it? That was a great shot because I'd had money on Pakistan. So, that was awesome. Look, the sad thing is, I think Travis Head was probably our best batter today. He probably played the best.
Well, he ended up
got out playing an authentic sort of shot.
I mean, you have to give credit to Ashwin and Jadeja. Jadeja, 12.1 overs, 7 for 42, and Ashwin, 16 overs, 3 for 59. They took all 10 wickets between them, but it was, Australia was 2 for 65, 3 for 85 when Smith was out sweeping. I don't want to criticize Smith because he's always our saviour, but, when he went, I got nervous because I thought we needed him to kind of anchor the innings for a little while.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. We do need to pause and say that Jadeja and Ashwin are just absolutely magnificent. I said it I've been saying it all the time. Jadeja's the best Indian cricketer I've ever seen. I think he's the best Indian Test player of all time. And if I was picking my side, of all the Indian players I've ever seen, if I'm picking a side for Indian conditions, Jadeja and Ashwin are the very first 2 players that I pick. They are unbelievably good. And although Australia, we're going to criticize the way they batted, and fair enough too, I don't know of many lineups that would have survived the way that they bowled this morning. They are absolutely special and magnificent. So full credit to them. I thought that Smith's shot in the modern era, it was kind of on. Yes, he swept the ball. He played a bit of a slog sweep from a ball on off stump. But I think the shot was on. He just didn't execute it. It was plumb. I don't know why he looked aggrieved that it was given out and then umpire's call. And then it's almost hard for me to remember what happened after that. It was just so quick and so devastating. Labuschagne, I mean, his one went along the carpet a little bit, but that's probably feeding into what they say, that an Indian player probably would have been forward to that one rather than back. Hanscom, did he actually bat? I have no memory of Hanscom.
Well, he edged one to Kohli. Kohli actually caught one, and it was, again, he was dry. So that was the 3rd wicket to fall on 95. So you had Labuschagne out, missing the ball that kept low. You had Renshaw out sweeping. Again, a terrible referral. He hasn't had a great series, but, that was plumb in front. He referred it, and it was going to hit middle, so he went packing. And then Hanscom edges one next over. First ball of the next over to Kohli, it slipped. So we've lost 3 for 95. And Cummins, first ball, tries to hit Jadeja out of Delhi into the next city and completely misses it. I mean, Cummins is cooked. The team's cooked. That was embarrassing. I thought Australia should be aggressive today. I'll put my hand up. I'll say Australia had to be positive today. It wasn't going to work poking and prodding around. But I just think they got completely outplayed. Like, I think their intent was probably almost right. Maybe they should have paused a little while, but if you just poke and prod there, you're going to get out. But what I didn't account for is how shit we are on Indian wickets.
Yeah, that's the fundamental problem that we're going to analyze everything. The fact of the matter is they're just better than we are. And that's galling because, as I said last time, 2017, Australia lost just. They probably should have actually won the series in India in 2017. I think this side, player for player, is a better side. Now, as I said, unless we have this miracle after lunch, in which case we will delete this episode.
Well, I'm not going to write Australia off. I mean, I don't think we're going to win, but we've got that early wicket. If we come out and take a few, the only thing is their tail will bat way better than our tail. We've seen that. So even if we get them 6 for 50, they'll probably still win.
Yeah, but the point is that unless there is that miracle, how is it that 6 years after almost beating them with a side that I think is better, we are on the cusp of going down 2-0, and that flatters us. We should be like, it's probably 2-2 the way that we've played. And I think that this reflects, and it's no excuse, India is just better. I don't think that the effort level from Cricket Australia has been there. That I don't think they realise how much Australian fans prioritise beating India. I mean, at the moment we can't beat them in Australia, but beating India in India is the holy grail, and we haven't put enough of an effort into it. I mean, again, no excuse, but in hindsight, and we criticised it at the time, the fact that the Aussies were playing Big Bash before going over there is absolutely ridiculous. I want the Big Bash to do well, but to hell with, I really don't care about the Big Bash that much. I want the Australian men's test team to play well in India, and it's really disappointing that we seem like we've gone backwards in the last 6 years.
Yeah, I totally disagree with you. If you could tell me, okay, you can have those 2 Steve Smith hundreds in the Big Bash, but we're going to get smashed 4-0 in India, or we compete in India, but you don't get those Smith hundreds in the Big Bash, I'm taking the Smith hundreds. I'm sorry.
Oh, well,
I'm sorry.
All I can say is, please sit there and await your arresting officer. You've just broken the law. That's domestic. Illegal. That is an illegal. That is an illegal opinion.
The health of Australia's domestic competition is so important. But just getting back to the action in India, I mean, the planning has been wrong. The team selection in the first test. I don't know what happened this morning. I think it was actually just, as I said, they went out there to be aggressive, but none of the batters have any real plans about how to counter Jadeja and Ashwin, apart from just slogging and reverse sweeping. And they got found out. They went hell for leather. They decided to go for a bit of Bazball, which, had it come off, like if they'd just gone at 6 and over for 30 overs today and lost all their wickets with 210 in front, we maybe win. So I actually don't think being aggressive was the worst attitude. They were just completely outclassed. Renshaw looks like a deer in the headlights in India. Hanscom played well in the first innings, but just driving in a ball in the rough. I mean, of course, he's going to get caught behind. Carey, he's got this. His only pace is just sort of reverse sweeping everything. And Ashwin and Jadeja are too good. You still need to pick the ball to play your shots. And then just a complete disaster. Head made 43, Labuschagne 35. Not one other player got in double figures. Pat Cummins, absolute just swing for the hills. If that's not a sign that his brain is frazzled, I don't know what is. And then India come out, KL flicks one straight into Hanscom's knee, basically. It pops up for a catch. So India are 1 for 14. They need 100 to win. They should win from here, but it's not impossible that Australia does.
Yeah, they talked about it, and I was listening on the SCN radio coverage, and they're talking about that match in 2004 when Michael Clarke took 6 for 9, and Australia then only needed 100 odd to win and got bowled out for 90 odd. So, it is possible, and as I said, that will put a different context on the Australian innings if that is the case. But I do think that there's a point around, and it's not something that I'm as aware of as some are, but the Australians do sweep a lot more than the Indians, and the aggression that the Australians showed playing cross-bat shots to balls that were on middle stump, that's probably different to what the Indians would have done. And so I think there's that feeds in more to where's the preparation. And I mean, I think that we're sort of joking about our different priorities before, but in all seriousness, both things should be prioritised. Yeah, the Big Bash has to be prioritised for the coming years. That doesn't mean you can't also say next time we go to India, let's be the best version of ourselves that we can be. And even if we still get beaten, let's have the thought put in and the practice and the preparation put in that I don't think was done in the 6 years that have just gone by. I want to make one other point as well, that I think that the way that Cummins led the side yesterday, especially during the Axar Patel Ravi Ashwin partnership, was disappointing. I thought there were too many fielders out. I thought, they batted well, but I thought it was a disappointing period as captain. The shot he played today obviously was a horrendous shot. Brought to memory a little bit of Ian Botham before my time, but just before he had the miracle of 1981, he was out playing an ordinary shot in the second innings in the previous Test match for a duck, walked off to stony silence from the members at Lords. On the field, I think there's a lot to criticise Cummins, and as we said, his position in the side for the next Test match does come under scrutiny because he hasn't bowled all that well, and if the pitch is going to be similar, maybe he is not the fast bowler to have in there. But I still want to say he is one of the best cricketers I've ever seen. I'm very happy that he's the Australian captain. I'm looking forward to him doing well in England. And to say, if Langer had been in charge, maybe things would be different. Australia's had how many dozens of home series against Asian oppositions in history? We've only ever lost twice, and both times Justin Langer was coach. That's not to say he was doing a bad job, but to say that had he been in charge, things would have been different, I just don't think computes. And I also don't like those who are sort of saying, Cummins is a bit too woke, that ridiculous term, and that they're sort of cheering on his downfall. I find that very distasteful. So happy to criticise his cricket, but I'm still happy that he's the Australian captain.
Well, a lot to unpack there. I mean, I want to talk about Cummins too. I don't like.
Sorry, that was a 10-minute rant, wasn't it?
No. I don't like. I don't like getting labelled as someone like that doesn't like Pat Cummins. I like Cummins. I really like him, but objectively, I don't think it's good to have a fast bowler as skipper. You can all argue with me. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's good to have wicket keepers as Test captains. And you look at the amount of mistakes Payne made on the field. So that's my position. And as you say, in the next Test, Stark may need to play with 3 spinners, and that means Cummins will have to sit it out. I don't take any pleasure in saying that. Well, maybe a little, but but I really like Cummins. I'm just very objective down the line with my opinions, no bias. And that's why sometimes I criticize him. I also, I do think Langer would have made a difference though over here. You can bark at me all you want. I think the score would be the same, but I don't think Travis Head would have been dropped for the first Test. There was really interesting audio in the Test documentary where Cummins wants to drop Nisa for the Boxing Day Test that Boland played. And Langer goes, well, he's worked so hard to get his Test spot. You got to really justify why you're going to do this. And I just don't think Australia would have just tossed Head aside in that first match.
I wasn't having a go at you then, actually. You might have interpreted it that. But
No. I had this about Cummins to talk about anyway. If you weren't showing up, I had to get it out there because people think I hate Cummins. I like Cummins. I just objectively don't think he should be captain. That's it.
No, I'm happy for him to be captain. I think that, but I also do think that if they decide that he is not the person to be in the 11 for the next Test match, that should be something they can do without making it a huge controversy. He should be able to say, I've decided that on balance, I'm not in the best 11 for these conditions. And that's fine. I'm stepping aside. Steve Smith will be the captain. All good. I think that should be as simple as that.
All right. So Australia in real trouble here. Real trouble here. They're up against it. Well, a lot of people watching live. I want to go through some of the comments. We've got here Australia is not a world-class team. Have to agree.
No, that's not true. I mean, Australia's ranked number 1. We're probably going to go and win the World Test Championship. Australia, in Indian conditions against a phenomenally good Indian side, have been outplayed.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. They're just India are way better. Do you think if Australia plays India and England, we start favourites now?
Yep, I do.
Okay.
Not with not overwhelming favourites, but I would, if I had to put my life on the line at the Oval, I would favour Australia ever so slightly against India. Yeah.
Now, we've got a question here from Amit. If Australia loses all 4 tests, what would be their final points? So I think if Australia lose all 4 tests, they might actually slip below India in the Test Championship rankings to qualify for the final. But I think Sri Lanka have to win both test matches in New Zealand to then leapfrog Australia. So 4-0's coming. I mean, can you believe last night how confident I was, Paul? Like, I really thought this morning, Australia, my worst case scenario was we score like another 150. Like, I thought we were going to come out and get a lead of 200 and win. I'm so deluded. And I sort of, I don't know what was wrong with me.
Look, all I can say is let's just hope for a miracle after lunch, and then this will look very different. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that even if Australia loses 4-0, we'll probably still be there in the final against India at the Oval.
So I wanted to also bring up our co-host Jaleesa started a thread, Cooked Cricket Takes. And she said before the series, Australia will win the series. Someone said this is the best Australian team ever. That's what I wanted to talk about. What about all those, shots of the dressing room at the end of the summer when they've, rolled through the West Indies and South Africa? All the Aussies have got that swagger, just hanging around like we're unbeatable. We're so good. We can just jet to India and continue on our merry way. The McDonald's Cummins partnership is going through the moon. You look at the dressing room now, they are all over the place. I mean, this is blown up the dressing room. They're going to get hammered the rest of this tour. It's so depressing.
But I don't think that they were arrogant after they beat South Africa. I think you just made all that up. They played really well against South Africa and the West Indies. That's great. Well done. But I don't think they were underestimating the task at hand in India. I don't think they were expecting to go to India and win easily by any means.
No, I just more mean like them just sort of sauntering around the Australian summer, saying like they're the best team in the world and we've got the best bowling attack in the world. Oh, you just have to ask them; they'll tell you.
No, find me a quote.
I will. I'm going to go and find it.
I'm serious. Find me evidence that the Australian players were being arrogant during the summer.
No, just the way they just sort of sauntered around, like very confident, and they've got completely shattered.
When were they sauntering? You're just making that up.
I was just saying the impression they gave from the summer, just very confident. And they get here and they've been embarrassed, bowled out twice in a session. I mean, they lose 9 today and they lose 10 in Nagpur. I mean, that is a shellacking.
Unless a miracle occurs, they've been thrashed, and they were very dominant in the Australian summer. Those two things sit side by side. I don't see any evidence that they were sauntering around thinking.
I just think they've been brought back to earth very quickly. It's a very different story now. They'll be pointing fingers. The teams all over the place. I mean, this is every Australian fan's nightmare when we go to India.
Yeah, but I mean, it was on the cards. No one's shocked that it happened, and I'm sure the players themselves recognised that this was a possibility. I just think that there's nothing to be gained by just sort of projecting the notion that they were sauntering around during the summer.
Well, I think they were. That's what I thought they were doing. I thought they just went there thinking that they were going to. I didn't think they were going to win, but I think they are shocked. They will, like, if you got them, they would be completely shocked at what's happened. Like they would not have had this on their radar at all, that they were going to get hammered.
I think that it was always a possibility. I'm sure they would have known that. I mean, every side that goes to India gets hammered. It's no excuse. It's not great, but it's not. I don't think it's a shock.
Well, what do you think they can do after lunch? I mean, do they just stick on Kuhneman and Murphy and Lyon and just hope for a miracle?
Yeah, I think they've just got to bowl very accurately, keep catching fielders in, don't give away the easy singles, don't blink if they hit a couple of 4s. Don't suddenly put the field back because that's a guaranteed way to lose. And yeah, I mean, hope for the best. It's not impossible, but it's highly unlikely.
Yeah, well, I can't see the Indians, like their whole batting lineup, not getting into double figures apart from 2 players. But the ball was keeping low, was doing a few tricks. So if Australia got a few of those balls on their side and got a bit lucky, you just never know. But it was just, I'm just completely shocked. I just can't believe they got bowled out in that first session. Like, I thought we'd easily have a lead of 150, 200 from where we were at stumps last night. To not do that, it's a severe miscalculation.
No, as I said, I can't think of a more disappointing session of cricket that I've watched with the Australian Test team in the entire time that I've watched it. Yeah, there've been debacles before, but to be on the threshold of batting themselves into a winning side, to level the series 1-1 against this rampant Indian team in Indian conditions, to go from that to be bowled out for nothing and relying on a miracle now was tremendously disappointing. And as I said, the 2% chance that we win after lunch, then I'll have a completely different complexion on it.
Yeah, well, if we win, we still batted badly. I mean, that doesn't change. So I just want to finish up. Ashwin 3 for 59, Jadeja 7 for 42. I think that must be his best bowling in Test cricket. Let's have a look at his best figures. Yeah, they are, because his best bowling was 7 for 48 before that. So his best ever bowling in Test cricket. They are just too good for us. Incredible stuff from India. So, Paul, what's the plan? We're supposed to record after play today, so we'll just see what time it finishes. There's a chance we might do it live on YouTube, but given it depends what time it finishes, we can do it on a podcast either way. So, yeah, that I just still shocked that they just blew their chance at least getting in the game. You know, if India chased down 200 on this wicket, good on them. They're a good team at home, but to just fall in a heap like that.
Let's just make one pact that if Australia do win, we will go live on YouTube and basically just say the opposite to everything we've said for the last 21 minutes.
Oh, brilliant tactics this morning doing that. Brilliant. Well, Border was fired up as well on the Fox coverage. Alan Border wasn't happy. Matt Hayden was blowing up. Anyway, well, look, thanks everybody for watching. If you're an Indian fan right now, you should be cock a hoop. Your team is on top of the world. You're headed for a World Test Championship final. Hope you don't lose 2 in a row. But yeah, amazing stuff.